Chase Tucker, thank you so much for joining Hustlers at Home. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm blessed. I'm alive. I'm breathing. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me here, Robin. It's such a blessing to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
So I have to say, I've been so impressed how you have been able to hold space for the Black Lives Matter conversation, especially on social media. And you were actually the first instructor I saw tackle it. And that took bravery, and you have been able to do it in such a way that is empathetic, but also very direct. So how have you been able to do that? Like,
yes.
Give me some of your thoughts in that journey, because it cannot be easy to hold that empathetic space while still be like going through the raw emotions of living in America right now as a Black man.
You know what? Well, first of all, thank you so much for that acknowledgement, and just I think that it's ironically the way that you brought that up, and the way that you said, having empathy and having that kind of empathetic approach while also being direct, that actually what came to mind when you mentioned that was actually what I see when I watch you in your classes, actually, like when you're, and in your approach with writers and members, and what they love about you, the fact that you're so damn direct, and you're just like, you don't beat around the bush. You're just like, hey, we're about to do this, like whether you're ready or not, like we're about to get this right, like we're about to do this. Yeah, exactly. I think when you said that, I was like, okay, yeah, like Robin, she's one of the things that I love about her, and the fact that the thing that members love about her is the fact that she's so direct, but you also do it with such a smile on your face, and you do it with such love, and you do it with such an acknowledgement of the humanness of the of the moment and the struggle, that people can't even fathom for a moment that this is coming anywhere from a place of love, anywhere else than from the place of love. And so the way that I look at it is just like, it's that kind of like that same approach, it's that same mixture, that same combination, just applied in a way that to be honest, it's a practice. It's not something that you just, I woke up, nor did you wake up automatically one day being like, oh, this is just how I'm going to like instruct. It's like, it's understanding that, that there's a balance that's necessary. If you want your message to be best received, your message to be best received. So when I think about like, when I'm engaging in these conversations surrounding, racism, and I'm thinking about, there's an extent to which, like in every conversation, in every exchange, there's something that we kind of like want to slip in ourselves, like a little piece of ourselves that we kind of like want to say, like, we want to like let out some steam, or let off some frustration, let off some anger, let off some stuff.
Yeah.
I think it really takes us, just like as trainers, we'd love to be able to, I'm sure so many of us would, ideally, in like a, perfect world, would just be able to say like, come on, it's simple, guys. Just like, do the thing. It's not rocket science. It's going to be like, you got to eat better. You got to move more. You got to like, get off your ass a little more. Like but it's not, we know that it's not, ideally, maybe it would take that, but there's so much more of a humanness and empathetic side that's required and necessary for the message to actually land and hit home in order to bring about change. Same thing about this, I have to remove some of my kind of like, this is what it should be, and just insert more of like, okay, what is it actually going to take? What kind of level of patience and humility was it going to take for this person to actually show that I care before I actually try to like change them? I forget the quote who said it, but it's like, before somebody cares how much they have to know how much you care. And I truly try to lead with that, and really over communicate, because in a day and age, especially when we really live in a world where, especially with social media, lends itself to people just constantly sharing their opinion and like what they think about a matter, and what they think that they know compared to like what the next person knows. It's like, how can I overly communicate how much I care? And again, this isn't something that I'm not special. I I didn't just I wasn't born overnight with that. I actually try to pay attention to people who exemplify and model that. People like Gary Vee, who I know that you follow.
Yeah, I love him.
And he's just he's, in my mind, you might hear me mention him a bunch of times in here too, because he's just he's such a great model of so many characteristics of empathy and just showing and kindness being a strength rather than being a weakness.
Yes.
All these things that I feel like we need to, make cool again if we're really going to make this shift as a society and as humanity towards more, just being more human and just eradicating the negativity, the hate, all the BS. So yeah, I hope that answered.
It does.
Yeah.
So we're in this for the long haul. You meant, I call it the long game. This anti-racism conversation and value system is it. This is it.
Yes.
This is a lifestyle.
For sure.
That requires self-care, mental health, all the things that as trainers and as wellness professionals we live. But what's your point of view on that? How are you? What's your self-care look like right now?
You know what? I think that again, it's funny because you come to mind not only this moment when you're asking that question, but also when I've been thinking about balance, the people try to attain balance, and something that I believe that I'm pretty sure I've heard you say, which I agree with, is to a certain degree, to a certain extent, balance, all things being equal, it's BS. It's not really, it's not really something that's attainable or that should be you should strive for. If you're able to keep everything kind of relatively, okay, then some things you're either not growing, you're not changing, you're not trying to really push and challenge yourself in a certain area. I think for me personally, throughout this season of especially when I was being really vocal about the things I was seeing, the atrocities, and how am I gonna what do I do? What am I gonna say? There's such a disproportionate and inordinate amount of brain power, mental energy, emotional energy that I was spending, and that I continue to spend on that I have to, it takes a lot of, self-awareness. So for one, acknowledging and being self-aware, how much am I actually spending in this area, whether it's a new skill that I'm trying to learn, whether this or whatever, whatever you're doing, how much am I actually expending energy-wise? And then number two, just without judging yourself, kind of giving yourself what you need, I think keyword being without judgment, because a lot of us kind of, we can tend to just judge ourselves oh, I shouldn't need this much, recovery or rest. I shouldn't, I've done this before. Why can't I do chill, acknowledge the fact that this likely circumstance is taking you and putting you into a situation that you haven't been to before, the combination of everything that's happening externally and internally in your life. So just acknowledge okay, this is taking a little bit more out of me, and how do I adjust accordingly? How do I adapt? We're adapting creatures. We're a machine. So you and I know that more than anybody else, as trainers.
How do we pivot? How do we pivot?
That's me.
New landscape.
Right. It's me trying to attack a new program where I'm spending 50% more of my time and energy into a training program, and it's more challenging. But then I'm giving myself the same level of rest and nutritional resources, and I'm wondering why I'm now. It's because you're not giving yourself appropriate, you're not acting, responding accordingly with what you actually need. So yeah, just not judging. And I think that the key word being, again, with that is just not judge. We tend to so much, I know myself, it can be challenging because part of it is we get to where we are in life and succeed because of how hard we've judged our way here. We say oh, you should be doing better, we should be doing better. It's it's we judge ourselves, but then there's a certain point at which you gotta like withhold that, you gotta like just like give yourself
Mm-hmm.
what you need. Stop and just give yourself what you need. So
Have there been any conversations recently that have given you hope, specifically as it relates to the Black Lives Matter conversation?
Conversations that have given me hope. Oh, yes. Yes. I like, where do I begin? I have conversations. So you might have seen me and myself, like in my stories. I haven't been doing it as recently because I've been like in the middle of this transition and move of my apartment. But personally, I've been having these conversations. I've been sharing on my story in which I've been having these conversations with members and people who genuinely have questions and like are, curious, like, how do I proceed? Like, how do I, I'm newly aware of this issue as like, a well-intentioned, well-meaning white person. I don't want to just sit in like guilt and shame and like, and saying I'm sorry. Like, what do I actually do? And then like me kind of, responding based on their situation. And then also interactions in which they tell me, of their own, like based on them, like seeing the content that I'm posting and the educational resources and, me, the posts that I'm making, they're saying like, hey Chase, like your posts, your messages, they've inspired me to like have this conversation, this uncomfortable dialogue, with myself or with my family members. And like, here's how it went down. And like, those give me so much hope. It's just like,
Yes.
it's beautiful. It's like again, you'll see me make so many kind of parallels as a trainer. It's like it's the equivalent of like somebody taking like what you were saying and saying, like, hey, I did what you said. And like, I'm seeing so much progress in my, I've lost this much pounds, or I've gained this much muscle, or like seen this much change in my lifestyle. And this is how it feels. This is like the benefit that it's had for my loved ones and my family around me, like all these kind of different things. And yeah, so conversations like that, people are actually genuinely wanting to change, and that's they're having that difficult conversations that are so necessary in this time. And then also,
Mm-hmm.
it's I don't know if you've been seeing these as much, but like they crack me up. It's both like, it's bittersweet because it's like it reveals such ignorance that's existing in our world, but it's also hilarious. But then it's also like, man, I have so much hope. When I watch these videos of like Generation Z, like these kids who are having these conversations in America with their parents, like these, when I've been seeing these videos, like usually white kids, like having these conversations, filming themselves, having these conversations with their kids, with their parents, and they're like having this kind of like verbal back and forth, and the kids are like standing firm in like this information they've learned, like, hey, dad, do you know like why like these that African Americans are in this position that they are, like, their parents might be saying like, like something ignorant, just again, that's why it's kind of bittersweet, because it's like it's revealing like where a lot of the collective mindset of America is right now, just saying like, oh, like,
Yes.
they just want to like leech off the system, like they just want to be ghetto, or like some kind of ignorant stuff that, and then the kid being like, no, like I'm not going to stand for that, like you're wrong. Do you understand, like, have you educated yourself on this stuff? Do you understand like the school to prison prep? Like they're rattling off all this information that like, it makes me understand and realize, like, of course it's funny to see like the completely shredding their parents like with this information they've been equipped with thanks to everything that's being shared on social media. But it gives me so much hope, because I'm like, wow, these kids nowadays, like they have like zero
They're not,
tolerance.
I know, but it gives me so much hope. There was this photo of this young king, this little black boy, like putting his hand up out of like a vehicle, some kind of car. He was like out of the sunroof or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look at this young king, unapologetically in his power. It just, it's intoxicating, and it's like, it's freaking overdue, Yeah, I have hope for that too. What educational white folks are turning to, as they should, as we should, voices of color, people of color who have been doing this work for a really long time. It's just that some folks are now just waking up to this work. What is the number one educational resource you're turning folks to? Is it a book? Is it a podcast? Is it a movie?
You know what? That's a great question, because although I'm having these conversations online, I want people to know by no means am I some kind of like certified or, you know, accredited resource or some like, well, I've not written or authored any books on these subject matters. I'm able to, I just personally love being a coach. And I'm a firm believer that, like, to be a coach in an area and to offer guidance, you don't necessarily have to be perfect in your understanding or awareness of something. You just have to know a little bit more than the person that you're kind of giving guidance to, like, you know? So for me, I love that opportunity to kind of like step in and like fill in the gap with some knowledge. But like I always, and you know, have no problem directing people towards, you know, resources. And for me, the ones that have been the most powerful have been, I follow pages on Instagram, come to mind, like Color of Change. It's like a nonprofit organization that's, I'm sure you've heard of it, that that puts together these campaigns that, you know, put forward people of color. And I follow Sean King, who is a brilliant, he's a brilliant, you know, resource of day-to-day, moment-to-moment kind of like actionable things that we can do to help fight some of these horrific things that are being done, not even just to people of color. Right. And
like he's a source of the news for me.
he is, yes. And it's so funny that like someone mentioned it, like wrote this down on social media. I was like, this is so true. We've been in the situation with the quarantine and with everything that's happening now. We've been kind of like, we're in a situation where we've been asked to rely on the news, TV and news more than ever before, but more than ever, it's actually less reliable than we're actually seeing from people's like footage online and like their social
their
media
phones.
So it's like more trustworthy in a way. So Sean King, Color of Change, Black Lives Matter, I follow them. There's so many. And just in case anybody kind of is watching this or hearing this and they want to kind of see more resources, check my Instagram bio link. I know that you've been actually posting you've actually been doing like a great job posting resources and actionable things that people can do like on a practical level to actually make this change, not only just a short-term sprint, but like a long-term marathon, which is what it should be.
Yes. We're in the ultra marathon.
Right.
We're in the anti-racism ultra marathon.
Right. And nobody knows about that better than you. So like, I'm trusting when I say, like,
I know how to get to work. So I think that is, it's providing folks different access points to be in this conversation, because it does require all of us to be in this conversation. Right. So for the folks in the Peloton community, what can they expect from your classes? You know, how do you view kind of this platform in a way to engage with folks about this or not about this? Like, what's your take?
So you mean my social media content or my Peloton?
Your classes, yeah. Peloton
my class content. Well, it's funny because like many of us, you know, instructors at Peloton, I personally love making my content just, I'm a minimalist. So I love, you know, not necessarily saying the most things, but when I do speak, it's intentionally in such a way that, you know, I thought to say that I was like, actually it's applicable. It's like, I want to say like the juiciest things. Like, how can I say, whatever I'm saying, it's like, you can get the most value and get the most like juice and goodness out of it. And it's applicable not only to what's on the tread, but it's applicable to what's happening in, you know, day-to-day life, and then what's happening relevant to this moment. And so in a way, it's kind of like nothing's really changed as far as like what I've been saying, because I speak in such a way that I'm just reminding people of the parallels between what they're doing and tackling, you know, in the moment on the tread or on the mat, and how that's, you know, really just a physical manifestation of the same internal change that is going to be required in this area of life. So in that way, it's like nothing has really changed too much. I've just been speaking to like concepts like, you know, gratitude, you know, empathy, having, you know, purpose. I'm massive on that. I know that that's something that you push a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose, I'm huge on, things like that. And I think that in this moment, purpose isn't just something like you just like, oh, this is the only thing that I'm ever going to do. And like, that's my thing and cool. That's it. It's like each moment can like ask of you and reveal to you like a different, you know, facet of your purpose. And I think that in this moment, we are all learning through the uncomfortable experience of this moment and what it's asking of us. You know, what is it that our unique skills, gifts, talents, curiosities, abilities, tendencies, what is it that those things lend ourselves to helping in a situation with, that we can infuse into our purpose and find newfound meaning and purpose, which is kind of like what I said when I made that video for National Global Running Day. Like, how can we infuse newfound purpose into something we already do? There's nothing more beautiful than taking something you already do, something that you already practice, something that you already engage in and you already love, and then finding a way to give it more meaning.
Yes.
It's powerful. It's yeah. So yeah.
That's so poignant. It's like renewed purpose in the small micro decisions, like giving oxygen to purpose through the small things that we do every day. And I think, you know, we're obviously in awe of, you know, folks who are activists and have been activists and have PhDs like Chelsea, like our teammate Chelsea, Dr. Chelsea. But change can also be really small. It can start at your kitchen table. It can start by speaking to your parent, as you mentioned, speaking to your partner, or just looking in the mirror and having that honest conversation with ourselves. That's the hardest one, I think. Oh my gosh, thank you for this conversation, Chase. Do you have any question for me, or anything else you want to say to our members?
Questions for you. What would absolutely, sure. This is something that I'll ask you right now. I would ask you this off camera, off the record too, but I think asking you this now here, it actually is helpful for people who are kind of observing or listening in, and so they can kind of ask themselves, okay, what can I do? But what, in your opinion, with you having observed me and of what you've kind of observed of me and like seen me doing in my way, and how I've been kind of we all have been stepping up in our own way. What is something that you would recommend that I could potentially do a better job of, right? Because we all have our strengths, and I'm a firm believer that, you know, shouldn't necessarily like focus like your attention so much on your weaknesses, you know, because we all have them, and like to a certain degree, like they're always gonna be your weaknesses, but your strengths will always be your strengths too. And if you lean into those, then you're really operating within your realm of your creative genius, and like what you're really it's really gonna be powerful and effective at. What's something that potentially some advice that you would give me as somebody who is trying to be better, trying to be more effective, and trying to do a better job of like creating change in people's minds and hearts in this area, you know, as a Black man in the world, but at Peloton, you know, like.
Wow, I didn't expect you to ask that. To be honest, for me, you're peak Chase right now. Like, I think you have stepped into like a light that is really beautiful and powerful to see, and we need more of it, and consistently, right? So in that long game, I want to make sure that you're caring for your spirit so you can continue to provide it, because you have a unique point of view that the world really needs right now. So I just want to make sure that you are able to show up in that way 1,000 more times, right? Because it does drain your energy bank, and you are dealing with things in the world differently than I am, and I want to make sure that we're protecting that, so the world can receive more of it.
Thank you so much for that, and I'm so glad that just like I said, like I asked that because I hope people listening can benefit, and that's absolutely something I feel like it personally is applicable to everybody. I'm a firm believer in the fact that like we all have personal, unique, like I said, unique personal gifts, talents, abilities, curiosities, tendencies that we have that nobody else does. It's like our special sauce. And like you said, it's important that we give ourselves what we need so that we can consistently provide that, and not just like in this big spurt, like
right.
then, like,
Not everything today. It's like
right,
this
exactly.
is
but
the ultra marathon needs a lot of sprinkles
right,
of action
exactly.
and energy.
How do I turn this compulsion into actually long-term commitment that's going to be consistent?
From
So
compulsion
thank you so much.
to commitment.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. I
Oh
appreciate
my
that.
gosh. Well, Chase Tucker, where can folks find you to hear more of this word?
Find me at Peloton, baby. Find me.
And what's your social handle?
I'm a Peloton shred instructor, so that's where you can find me. I'm on Instagram at Chase Tucker. Super simple and easy. And yeah, really that's it. So
thank you for being on this very special episode of Hustlers at Home. Chase, it is
an
honor to be your teammate. Thank you so much for being so honest with us today. So I want y'all to continue this conversation in the comments. You're going to follow Chase. You're going to continue the conversation on his page. Let's approach these conversations with the compassion and the empathy that they deserve, because we're in this for the long haul. Thank you for joining us. Peace.